Welcome to the CX Roundtable. Today is such an exciting day because not only do we have our first repeat guest on the CX Roundtable, Luke Jamieson, we also have the legendary Brad Cleveland here to join us for the first time. Welcome to the CX Roundtable community. I'm so happy to have you both here to talk about the future of contact centers.
Hopefully the audio is much better this time, Sarah.
Well, I mean, Luke, that is the only reason I invited you, so that you would have a chance to redeem yourself. So it's okay. It's okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You have a lot to offer to this conversation because contact centers, this is a new world for me, really. I mean, not really. I did start my career in contact centers, but after spending some time at ICMI and really seeing the connection between the contact center space and the startup space with support and customer service, I just kind of have gone in headfirst to learn as much as I can and really see the impact that you can make within a contact center at scale. I think a lot about ripple effects, and in startups where I've been for such a long time, you build your team, you make an impact with your team, but your team is probably 3 to 5, maybe a little more than that. And you can really teach them how to lead the way that you'd always wished that you've been led. But a contact center is a special place because that ripple is large, and you have the opportunity to reach thousands of people and show them that a better way exists. And the two of you are people that do that. And that makes me really happy that you're here. So to make it so that I don't talk for days and let you guys share your wisdom, let's start with Brad. Brad, I would love to let you introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and so great to be with you, and great to be with you, Luke. It's fun to see you guys recently at the conference in Orlando, and wow, what a great celebration of our profession. Well, my whole career has been focused on customer experience, and more specifically contact centers. I love it. I began working in and around customer service environments early on, and fast forward some years, I was a founding partner in the International Customer Management Institute, ICMI, where I served as CEO for many years. And we had an amazing team, and that opened doors for me to work with some incredible organizations and to really see firsthand and be part of how they're reshaping services. Just a real privilege to have a front row seat and some of the incredible work that's being done out there. I remain an advisor to ICMI and today focus on speaking and consulting and writing. Got some books out there. The one on contact center management is looming large on my to-do list. We're working on a 5th edition, which is due very soon. So it's gravitating to the top of my to-do about every day now.
It's amazing. Well, I can't wait for that to come out and promote it and celebrate it. And I really do just have to say, Brad, the experience that I had at ICMI, I've been on this speaker palooza now for a couple of months and have been to a bunch of different events, and ICMI was so special. And it was so welcoming and inclusive and kind. And I don't think any of that could have happened without you setting the tone when you first started ICMI. And then the folks that you brought in were people that shared your values and understood how to make all of that come to life so that it would continue when you were able to focus in on other exciting things. So you are such a talented, gifted person for this community. And I have to gush and thank you very much for letting me into this space.
Thank you so much. And that really goes to our team and you and Luke and everybody who's a part of this community. It doesn't take much if you just give everybody a chance to share what they're up to and to connect on a very real level. And I just love to see that. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And Luke, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, g'day everyone. So Luke Jamieson, and I suppose by way of background and to tie into what Brad was saying, I've been in the contact center space for a really long time, and we're talking 20 years now. But the first book I ever read was Brad's book. And when I got my first sort of team leader role after being on the phones, the first book I grabbed was Brad's book, Contact Center Management on Fast Forward. And I was just like, that became my Bible. So the first time I met Brad at an ICMI event 13 years ago, I was like, I was starstruck. And then Brad was like, we're going to the baseball. Do you want to come along? And I got to hang out with Brad at a baseball game, eating a hot dog, like living the American dream at the time. For me, I was like, this is it. I'm hanging out with celebrities and eating a hot dog at the baseball. Like, it was great. But look, I've had 20 years in the contact center space, and I've done pretty much all of it. As far as I've worked for, I've built contact centers from the ground up. I have run contact centers. I've been at the C level for CX. I've worked in BPOs, retail, and then worked on the tech side. So then moved over to where I am now on the startup and tech side of contact centers. And I suppose the cool thing that to throw back to a bit of ICMI love, is that none of that has ever, wherever I've worked, no matter what role, that has never changed for ICMI. They're so welcoming. You don't get shafted out if if all of a sudden you're working for a vendor. You're still welcomed in for your thoughts and your input. And it's, as you said, it's such a welcoming community. And mate, I tell you what, ICMI was amazing. I was as exhausted as I was energized by that conference. Yeah.
Yep. And you're stuck with me now, Brad. So I'm going to be showing up at all of these things from now on. I mean, we're here to talk about more than ICMI, even though this could be an entire podcast series. This is ending the 2025 year for the CX Roundtable. 2026 is going to be a really exciting time for the Roundtable as well, because we're going to be starting some series. We've got a workforce management 4-parter coming up at the beginning of the year that I'm really excited about. And odds are this conversation will require a lot more time, and I might beg for both of you to come back, and maybe we can bring some new voices in as well, because I'm sure we're just going to be scratching the surface about contact centers and where it's headed. With that being said, let's do this, as my 2-year-old says whenever he is walking out the front door. All right, Brad, I'm bugging you first. So you've been watching and monitoring contact centers and its evolution over the years. We're in this interesting time with AI, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of opportunity. And where do you see the contact center's role changing over the next decade?
A great question. In short, I really see it becoming the intelligence hub of the organization. It's the one place where customer expectations and product realities and brand promises and all these things come together in real time. The leaders who leverage that, they really see it as that hub of intelligence, and they're able to share that with the broader organization, so that the organization gets stronger in products and services and processes. That's where I see things going. I think it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And before I ask you for your opinion on this, Luke, I do also just have to acknowledge the contact center space. The folks that are actually talking to the customers are often the ones that have no voice. And it is a struggle for them to feel like they are this really important part of this journey. And based on what you've seen over the years with lifting up the contact center employees and making sure that they feel the weight that their role carries in this company for it to be successful, do you think that the AI and technology conversations are actually going to finally give them the recognition that they deserve? I'm asking you, Brad. Sorry, Luke.
Asking me.
Yeah.
So I think so, depending on how we use it. And it really is a matter of what's the value system, what's our mission, and how are we harnessing all these opportunities? So it's a qualified yes.
Good. I like that. I think that's a good yes to have. What about you, Luke? Where do you see the contact center heading in the next decade?
I think AI is probably one of the great things that's happened to the contact center. And I think a lot of people initially feared it, that's going to take everyone's jobs. And it might take a few, but it won't take all of them. And what I think it will do is, as you were saying, I think it's going to elevate the contact center agent, because what it's done is it's made us rethink what is valuable, where do we add value. And for decades, as long as I can remember, we've been measuring people on these metrics that are efficiency metrics, and maybe not everyone, but for the most part of the industry, that's what we're doing. and trying to get people to be as efficient as possible, like you would train a robot to do. And now all of a sudden you've got AI being able to do that. And so we're able to unlock the true potential of people for them to do their job the way they want, in such a way that it adds meaning and purpose and impact to what they do. And I think we're going to see some really cool stuff. I think we're going to see elevated leadership within contact centers. One of the cool pieces of tech that I recently saw when I was in the US was the ability for AI chatbots and voice AI, but the agent was actually the manager of 5 voice AIs. And so they're managing essentially agents, and they're getting this managerial experience. Now, sure, they might not have to have performance report conversations with them and put them on performance improvement plans and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, they're able to dive in and see where they can interject and where they can help and where humans need to be in the loop. And I think that's a really cool spin on what does the contact center agent look like? Are they the ones always talking? Maybe not in the future. Maybe they're the ones managing these voice AIs and showing some interesting leadership and knowing when to put human in the loop. I think there's some cool stuff.
That's really interesting, especially since I think one of the biggest gaps within this whole AI boom has been a lack of conversation around the QA and actually monitoring the conversations that are happening. And I mean, so many AI companies don't even have QA in place. And if you do the downvote on it, sometimes they don't look at that for a month. So it's giving misinformation that entire month until someone comes around to check it out and to make those changes. And so thinking about the future for these employees of contact centers to have control of how this data is shared, to be able in real time to be able to step in and say, hey, I'm so sorry, this was actually not right. Let me jump in here. I'm Sarah, I am a person. Let me guide you through this. That is such a cool opportunity to prove trust and value and how much you value the customer, that you would actually employ somebody to be making sure that what these crazy chat robot things are sending over to them, because a lot of companies are failing miserably because they're not even thinking about that.
I had a great experience yesterday. I had to call the contact center, and there was no other way for me to resolve this. I had a look at the FAQs. I went through the website. All of that led me to having to make a phone call. Basically, I went through this. I'm not going to name the company, but there was a bit of a billing issue, a pretty big billing issue. And it had affected me, but not to the point that they were going to do anything about it. So there were people that were way worse, way more impacted than I was. But I was still impacted. And I was like, had I not done the right thing, I would have been in that other boat. So I called them on it. I was like, I just don't feel right about this. I don't feel right that I did the right thing, but everybody else is getting like refunds. And what was so beautiful was that the agent was like, I hear you, and you shouldn't have had to deal with that crap. And we thank you for doing the right thing. And I've been empowered to, how does this sound? I'm going to give you a $250 credit on your account. Now, monetary value aside, it could have been any dollar amount. Like, it was the fact that someone was empowered, someone empathized with me, and somebody acknowledged and just took ownership and did it. That is a beautiful thing. And that's what that call itself really made me just think, yeah, contact centers aren't going anywhere, and we need them, and we need good humans. And it is a white glove service. And we're going to see the organizations out there who invest in people. And I was just speaking with Neil Toff. He's an absolute legend in this industry. And he was talking about how they're doubling down on putting more humans on, because so this whole thing about guys going to take the contact center, it's I don't believe it to be true. I think that the organizations that get it and really care about customer experience will be intentional about how they apply AI, but really their biggest investment will still be their people.
A great example. And I took a poll at a keynote a couple of weeks ago with close to 1,000 contact center managers in the room, representing probably every vertical industry out there. And I asked by show of hands, how many are seeing workloads go down? There were a few hands in this massive room. how many are seeing workload go up? And just about every hand in the room goes up. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, many execs are thinking that AI is going to reduce staff and expecting that. So that's an important conversation. But your example, Luke, is great. I mean, these are escalated contacts from the get-go, and they have been for some time, but they especially are now. And they really are those opportunities to lend humanity and wisdom and that sort of touch you just can't get from AI. That's so exciting. So let AI do what it can do best. Let us as humans do what we do best, and that's a crazy powerful combination.
That was so beautifully said, Brad. It's so true. I mean, I've got another example as well, Luke. I mean, I was talking with Amex. My flights have been canceled like crazy lately with all the wildness that's been happening in the US, and I was needing to change my flight to Miami, and I was doing a chat, and the very first thing once the agent was connected to me was, we do not have chatbots here to help you. My name is Marie. I am a person. It might take me a little while to get back to you, but that's because I'm looking into everything. And that was, I took a screenshot of it because that was such a cool moment, which, I mean, cool, but also double-edged. I have to wonder what kind of abuse have they faced in the past to jump to this kind of a message to be sent out initially. But it's a power move. It is like, no, we're not playing that game. This is a white glove Amex Platinum service. Like, you are paying to have people help you. Please don't be confused and think that we don't value you enough to dedicate agents directly to help you through this. And I think that is what we're going to start seeing. It's that white glove, premium almost opportunity for brands to take a stand and to say, yeah, sometimes we might be a little bit more expensive, but it's because of the experience that you're going to be getting, and having that spread in a contact center level is really cool because you see it all the time in startups because their staffing is much smaller, but a contact center to make that kind of a stand will stand out. And that is a differentiator that I think people are going to be looking for.
I think one of the things you mentioned there is probably one of the biggest challenges this industry faces going forward, and that is that abuse that does take place in the contact center space. And look, I think that there's a reason why that's taken place. We've as I said before, we've tried so hard to make people so efficient and less human in order to meet these quotas and fit within these parameters of workforce management, et cetera, that it almost dehumanizes the person at the end of the phone. And therefore a customer, once they're already frustrated, especially if they've had to, jump through a few hurdles, even just to get to someone, an IVR, a poor chatbot, all these loops, the frustration by the time they get to a human that has been dehumanized, it's so easy to just jump in and abuse somebody. And so I think that that's going to be the challenge, because one, if we are taking away all the simple stuff, we're adding cognitive load to an agent. And two, there is an emotional toll that comes with that role. And we need to acknowledge that and find ways to support that. And I think that the move, though, to elevate the agent and to make that a white glove service will help to some degree, because they will put the human back into it. And it's much harder to be abusive to another human when they feel like it's a real person. And so the more we can humanize the human elements of contact centers, the better that's going to be for the industry.
Sure agree. And all the more reason to make sure we've got the right tools in place for them and the right metrics and the right culture, and really empowering them to be everything they can be.
I love that we keep coming back to metrics, because this was something that I really did want to kind of dive into with both of you. Because like you were saying, Luke, metrics always have been do more, do it faster, do it better, do it harder, like all of the more words that you can throw at it beyond what is typically possible for a person. And it's really never enough. And with this shift of now, we are enabling these contact center employees to pause and to assess and to be strategic. And hopefully they have tools to do it, or there's workarounds or trainings or what have you. But Brad, what do you see metrics looking like over the next even 3 years with contact centers changing so rapidly?
Yeah, that's a great question. At the individual level, we've got to be very careful about interpreting what's really happening. I was in a contact center a while back where one of the managers was worried about declining performance with one of her superstar agents. Like, she used to be great, and we're just seeing performance declines. It didn't take a whole lot of investigation. By the way, I asked, "Wait, how do you know?" Well, she's not handling as many interactions, and first contact resolutions going down, and all the things they're looking at. It didn't take long to see that she was the troubleshooter, and she was the one her colleagues were transferring the toughest interactions to. So yeah, first contact resolution was lower because this was the tough stuff. And it took a little more time, but she was a superstar. And we had that conversation. Her manager's like, "Wow, you're right. We just gotta, you have to know how to interpret these things and really get to what's important." So I think, are we really furthering our mission at the individual level? I got to be in the right place at the right time, and I don't perfectly control the forecast and the work coming my way and all that. But am I doing a great job with the tools I have and what I have to work with that work that's coming my way? At the center level, it's really exciting to see a shift towards more strategic focus in more and more organizations all the time. So we still need to know, do we have an accurate forecast, and are we getting the right resources in place at the right time, and the qualitative measures around doing the right things, all of that. But how are we doing with capturing the intel that we can share across the organization to improve products and services and processes? You can't get that from surveys and traditional R&D methods. I mean, it is so powerful what we can capture and use. So looking at how well we're really using the strategic insight that's coming our way is really an exciting progression.
Yes, 1000% yes. I love that example so much, because that's something, as I've come into a leadership role, started to train and mentor other leaders, like that piece right there of actually, like, you're not making assumptions, you're asking questions, you're being curious to understand what's actually going on, is a missing piece in a lot of spaces. And sometimes it's because leaders are beyond capacity and they don't have the bandwidth to be able to look at these individual spaces. But in doing so, you forget that this is a person who is here to do their best, and nobody comes to work and is not doing their best, at least a majority of the time. And so if you start to see something that looks a little bit off, going to the source and asking a question. I mean, I try, after any conversation that I have with anyone, whether at work or in my personal life, I ask, was I respectful? Was I curious? Was I kind? And if I can answer yes to those three things, then I showed up the way that I was supposed to show up. And it sounds like you showed up in that exact same way for that individual, and also taught the leader how to show up in that way too, because it's an easy thing to forget when things get really stressful. So
I love
yeah,
those.
that sounds like a special person.
Yeah, I'm going to borrow your questions. I love them. I mean, that's exactly right.
It helps. It helps center you, definitely, for sure. And I think remembering intention is so important, so important. And Luke, with your experience with Operata and your past experience as well within the contact center, I know that Operata is doing a lot of really cool things with understanding things in the moment, so that you don't have to make assumptions. You actually have that insight. How does that connect with what you've learned through the years with metrics and with being strategic in a contact center space?
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks for letting me talk about what I'm finding really exciting at the moment with Operata. It's one of those things that had I known about when I was a contact center manager. I just wish I knew then. I genuinely feel like I need to apologize to anybody who I've mismanaged in the past, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And like you said, I've managed thousands of people in my career. And for some of them, I reckon I've probably done them a disservice. And the reason I say that is because, you know, some of the cool stuff we see at Operator is we see all of these upstream impacts, these upstream metrics that have an impact on the metrics that we measure people by. And I'll give you an example, and kind of similar to what you were talking about, Brad. You see an agent who was performing really well, and then later on down the track, they're not performing as well, and people think it's a DNA issue when actually it's a desktop issue. You know, some of the data we see, whether it's that a computer's old, you know, it's got old, and therefore the CPU maxes out a lot more, which then has an impact on things like the jitter and packet loss and lag that happens when we're in a cloud-based scenario, in a contact center. Therefore, voices are harder to hear. Maybe the audio quality isn't as good. Therefore, maybe the transcription is also not as good. And so if they're getting automated QA, maybe they're getting marked down on something that actually may or may not have happened. But also the friction that then causes between a customer and the agent is elevated. And so I've just finished this tour around the US, like you, Sarah, just speaking everywhere. And one of the topics I was talking about was this 10 by 10 rule, where if you look at 10% of there'll be 10% of your agents that are displaying 10 times the frequency of behaviors or being impacted 10 times more by something. And when you start to sort of follow this correlation, there was some really interesting insights that we got from our data. You know, we've got 1 trillion points of data and an insane amount of agent data that we can collect. And what we're able to see with this 10 by 10 rule was some really, you know, interesting stuff. When an agent had poor mods, so mods is the value you give to the quality of the audio, and it's a 0 to 5 scale. When an agent has poor mods, they were 50% more likely to quit in the next 3 months. And when you start to then go, okay, well, that's interesting. Like that, they don't know what mods is. They don't know that the quality of their audio is bad. What does that actually mean? Well, when you dive into it, it's like, okay, well, these agents had older CPUs, so everything was taking longer for them to switch between screens. The voice quality was impacted. Therefore, it's putting more load on the agent to be able to have that conversation, try to communicate more. And it's just making their job harder and harder and harder. So after 3 months of just your job getting harder and harder and harder, simply because of desktop issues, it's no wonder these people are quitting. And so that's just one tiny example. And to me, it's really exciting to be able to work on a product that's actually not only improving customer experience, but also improving the agent experience and unlocking all of these things that we just didn't know as contact center professionals that could have downstream impacts on our people and our customers. I think that's really cool.
I have a pilot's license for a little single engine aircraft, and I had a flashback to early days. You had to buy your own headset and bring it for whatever aircraft. Had to be great quality. I mean, it's you have to be able to hear other aircraft in the tower, and why we don't think in those terms sometimes in our contact centers with the kind of volume we have and the kind of all day engagement. And it's just these tools matter so much.
They definitely do. And I love the fact that now I know that you also are a pilot. That's just a really cool, a cool little thing to have in my back pocket to know about Brad Cleveland. Thanks for sharing that one. Speaking though of tooling, I think that this is something that folks in CX experience all the time, but contact centers especially. I mean, when I was leading customer service in a biotech company last year, it was essentially a call center, and the technology was outdated, and it was like pulling teeth to get a better headset or to get those noise canceling things on the side. I don't know what they're called, but maybe I'll put in something with text on there if I ever remember. But it was like pulling teeth. It was a real struggle. And I mean, I experienced this even in startups, advocating for my team and trying to get them the tools that they need to be successful. What do you recommend for leaders, whether they're in a contact center or in other roles within CX, to advocate for upgrading equipment because of the impact, as Luke was saying, that this has on their ability to do their job.
That's a great question. I will go back to the senior level leaders I've met over the years who actually spend time in the environment, actually using the tools. They don't even have to be that great at it. The late John C. Bogle, who founded Vanguard Group, which became this massive financial institution, very successful, but he spent a lot of time actually handling customer contacts over the course of his career. His team would whisper, he's not really great. I mean, the handling time is quite long with him. It was all good humor, but what an inspiring example. And he would walk out of these experiences saying, we need to do this and we need to do that, and because he saw firsthand where the tools could be better. I just don't think there's any better way than to just go live it. And I'm not expecting every senior level leader to walk in and be able to handle an interaction. They're becoming more complex all the time. At least sit next to those who are, though, and watch the flow. Ask them how it's going and where, what's getting in the way, what could make things easier for them. So go experience it firsthand.
I mean, we'll talk about showing that you value the people on the floor. I mean, that is it right there. I'm going to take time out of my day because I want to connect with you on a human level and see what your day is like. And that shouldn't be something that's rare. It should be something that every leader has to do all the time if they have any sort of role that involves being connected to the folks on the floor. Because you're right, like, he was able to see the pain. He was able to feel the pain, not just from the customers that he was talking to, and I'm sure that impacted product roadmaps after he got off of those calls, but also he got to feel the pain of the people that he invited into his space to make the company great. And that is necessary from a foundational level for you to be able to do your job well and allow others to do theirs as well. So I love that example. Thank you for sharing that. And
add to that, Sarah, just briefly, that we've, from the contact center's perspective, have to do that the other way. What's going on in these areas across the organization who we're interfacing with, and what's their tool set like? What are their goals? What are they trying to accomplish? And really seeing firsthand and experiencing it as we can firsthand their world makes us much more effective in serving them and being that intelligence hub that really ups the value of the contact center.
1,000%. I think it's understanding who it is that you're working with and what their struggles are, what their needs are, is another chance to just remember that it's a human on the other side. And it's much easier to collaborate with someone when you remember, especially working remotely, that they're more than just a face on a screen, that they're somebody who is going to work, doing their best. Luke, what kind of experiences have you seen in these sorts of situations, and how can leaders kind of set themselves up for success?
Well, I think you sort of touch on what Brad was saying there as well, is as if you're in the contact center, you also got to think about what's important to other people. It's so easy to get focused on, we need to improve average handle time or get more people. And we're either going to pitch for something that's going to help us make things quicker or more efficient, or we're going to pitch for more people to resource. Because ultimately, there's a big argument about AHT in the industry. We need AHT. We need to understand the resources and how long things take so that we can get the right staffing. It's an important metric. Should we measure agents on it? Probably not. But we then take that little metric and we roll that up to an exec, and we're like, this is a problem. We need help. To a C-suite, that metric probably doesn't mean much. It probably doesn't have a lot of impact, and it's not keeping them up at night. So we need to be able to shift the conversation to a metric that's going to make more sense. Two metrics that we've created within Operator is the CX risk and the CX tech risk. And so to help with that conversation, Sarah, around where do we need to invest, whether it's new headsets, new computers or whatever, a CX tech risk score will look at all of the technology right across the contact center that an agent's using and what's causing the most friction. And when you can then deliver a message, a lighthouse metric to a C-suite and say, our CX tech risk is down 20 points at the moment because 15% of our laptops are now out of spec. That's a much easier conversation to have. And what is then the flow and effect of that? Well, it means that of that 15% of our contact center, their calls are slower. Their customer satisfaction's lower because, the conversations aren't clear and we're unable to have proper conversations. It makes that dialogue a lot better. And so we need to, as an industry, start rolling up some of these metrics into these lighthouse metrics that make a C-suite stop and go, okay, I get it. I understand that in the broader context, not just this little tiny metric that keeps you up at night.
Makes me so excited. See, this is the stuff that makes me so excited about AI, because for so long, it's always been, you've got to do a better job getting buy-in. You've got to do a better job sharing this information. You've got to figure out how to talk their language. And it's always do more, do more, do more, do more. You're not doing enough, but no one's ever teaching anybody how to do any of these things. So then you just constantly feel like you are a failure because you can't get the message across the finish line because you're just grasping at straws. And in many situations, you just get one shot to get into that room and to pitch it. And if it doesn't land the way that you wanted it to land, you thought that it would land, you might not be asked back. And that is something that does make me just beyond excited to celebrate this technology, because it's taking that responsibility off of the shoulders of these folks in CX that do not have the training to speak every single language that exists within a business in a way that transforms how this industry that people often forget about or don't see the value in think about us. I love that it's just like, we gotcha. It's going to be okay.
I know you're a Bluey fan, Sarah. So you just reminded me of this Bluey episode where Bluey, Bingo is the parents are having a chat with Bingo, the younger daughter in the show. And she hears the first 3 words, and then the rest of the conversation is, she's like, you just gotta tell me quicker because I just don't listen that much. And I actually think it's exactly the same from the C-suite.
Yes.
If we start getting so into the weeds and start trying to explain this stuff in detail, it just sounds like garble after about the first 10 words. It's not intentional. It's not to say that C-suites aren't smart or don't care or anything like that. It's just, we have to be able to work out what is going to have the cut through in the shortest amount of time that they don't have to get into the weeds about. That's, they've got other things to worry about. So, yeah.
It's a great example. And all that's, we want to make sure we're going in and what are the big drivers, market share and brand reputation and growth, and what are the biggies in your organization. Let that help frame things. And then, all of the capabilities we have are just so exciting.
It's true. It's true. And I'm never going to be upset with a Bluey reference. So thank you for bringing that to the roundtable. But I'm going to pivot a little bit, because I think that something that you both bring to the table that I know that we're kindred spirits on is just your dedication to purpose and to value and to core values. And I mean, Luke knows how obsessed I am with core values, but Brad, we can have a whole other conversation about that someday, I'm sure. But I think that thinking about the leaders and what they can do to change the experience for their team is something that's so powerful within a contact center space. And so I would just love to know, when you're thinking about managing your team and remembering that everybody's human and remembering all of these different pieces within this hybrid culture and this global team structure, which many contact centers are still doing since COVID, especially, what can leaders do to maintain this long term?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, does everybody understand what our core values are? Use the hallway test virtually or actually, and ask. And if you get a whole bunch of different answers from different people, you've got to calibrate a little bit on what your core values are, but then use them. I think of USAA, such a great organization. I've had the privilege to work with here and there over the years, and their 4 values are unwavering, service, loyalty, honesty, integrity. I think I got those right. They reinforce them over and over. Every meeting they have, every decision they make, they really use them way more than than a plaque on a wall. So I think that's important as it's ever been, given all the change and the distributed environments we still often have, and all the things that are happening. We've got to know what those values are. We've got to live by them. We've got to walk I know it sounds simple, forgive me, but we've got to walk the talk.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Luke, do you have anything that you would like to add about values and bringing that to leaders?
I just think that this is one of those scenarios where we talk about purpose, meaning, impact. This is where I think AI helps, because all of a sudden it frees up some of this capacity for us to go, instead of downsizing our contact center, why don't we use that space that we've just created? Because I believe that the future leaders are space makers. And so if we can use AI to create space, what do we fill that space with? Instead of reducing people, what do we fill that space with? Is it time for creativity? Is it time to grow and study and be, those intrinsic things that help us? Is it refocusing what is our big, hairy, audacious goal as an organization, and remembering that and going, actually, that's why we do what we do. How do we do that better? Is it maybe we give people some time back to spend time with their families, because that's really important to them. Maybe we move to a 4-day work week, if that's even possible in a contact center. But what I'm saying is, I think that purpose, meaning, impact, value, all of that comes from space. We need to create space, and I think we're in a really exciting time where we might actually be able to create some of that space.
It's an inspiring way to put that. It's certainly got me, my wheels spinning here. What do we do with that space? Great question, Luke.
Space matters. I mean, even when you're talking to a customer, space matters. Being able to pause, being able to think about things, being able to utilize a knowledge base article. But realistically, though, because again, we're all like-minded individuals here, this makes total sense, and it is an easy sell. Of course, you want to make space. Of course, you want to have people level up to feel connected to their work in a way that they didn't think that they could, and of course, be compensated for it as their skills grow. But we are going from do more, do more, do more, do more, do more, to where we're kind of at right now. Well, if you don't do more, we'll just get AI to come in and do a lot of it for you. So after a lot of that fails, and we realize being the differentiator is what matters, how do you even start that conversation of, in order for us to truly be a differentiator, we have to make space? This goes to either of you.
I think it's to Luke's point. What are the opportunities that space creates? What is our chance to make a dent in the universe as an organization, and how can that space support that?
I think it's about being intentional with what you're trying to implement. There's an article that's going around at the moment, this MIT article, and it's getting quoted a lot around AI. The failure rate, it's really high. Brad, you might be able to correct me on this, but I think it's around 90% of all AI implementations fail. That's the headline of this article. But if you read deeper into that article, what it also talks about is that point solutions, if you go and use point solutions, they're actually more likely to succeed. For me, the crux of that article isn't the headline that everyone is using it for around doomsdaying AI. I think the crux of that article to me is saying, be intentional. And when you're intentional, you succeed. And so these broad, AI is going to fix everything, we're going to replace you with AI, whatever. You can't just, I heard a great analogy there. You can't just throw AI on spaghetti and expect it's going to sort it out. You have to be intentional. And when you're intentional about your implementation, what are you trying to achieve? And the intention should never be, let's get AI in, let's get a system in, because that negates the point of why you were doing it. What are you trying to free up? What are you trying to create? What are you trying to fix? Be very specific, be very intentional, and do that really well. And then when you get that right, you can then move to the next piece. And then maybe in 10 years' time, everything is AI. Sure, awesome, but it's really well orchestrated and done well and whatever. I think it is just, what is the purpose? Going back to what is the success criteria? If it's getting a system in, then it's always going to fail. The outcomes, the return on investment, all of that is going to fail. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And so if your first intent is create space, well, then use that as your success criteria.
Hear different organizations saying our strategy is to be an AI first organization. That's not your strategy. AI is a tool, a very powerful set of capabilities. Your strategy is some set of services and products that they're going to make things better, hopefully, in the world. What can help you do that? What can support that? And to Luke's point on the failure rate being quoted, these are iterative initiatives. They're not projects. They're not one-off. They're iterative initiatives that we've got to stay with, because AI is getting better every day. Our use of it hopefully is getting better every day. And it's sometimes 2 steps forward and a step back, and recalibrate a little bit and then another step forward. So think iterative and think, what are we really trying to accomplish as an organization?
Going back to the space, I'm curious, because I mean, both of you have built things from nothing before, and now we're in this space where there is a lot of technology, there is a lot of possibility that's very different than what it was not even a handful of years ago. Luke, if you were starting from scratch building a contact center, what would it look like?
Oh man, that's a great question. What would it start with? Actually, I don't know if I'd do it differently. It starts with the basics. The product, the people that support that product, and then what is that, and then how do you service that? I think if you start with anything else, then you've missed the point. Like, what is the purpose of your product? Okay, so how do we support that? And it's not about putting in more channels. It's not about, if we think about, God, I hate the term omni-channel. Like, I don't think it's ever been achieved. I'm not sure it ever will be achieved, but
It never will be achieved.
It's if you're like, well, we need to put in a chatbot because that's where that's a cost-effective way of doing things, or we just need to create a channel. I think you have to think about why you're creating what you're creating. And I'm going to go back and use this McDonald's example I had, where I went to McDonald's. There was no one behind the counter. There was a machine, the automated machine. I took forever to all I wanted to do is walk up and be able to say, hey, I want a McChicken meal. But I had to go through this machine, which seemed just so much harder. It then didn't spit out the number. There was no numbers anywhere, so I didn't even know what order was coming out when. Nobody knew what was going on, and there was no one to talk to. Putting in that machine, and look, I put a bit of a rant on this on LinkedIn, and it went pretty wild. Like it blew up. Like it was like 4 million impressions kind of thing. And what I loved about that conversation, not the virality of the post, but the conversation and the dialogue that actually spun up. And that was that there was people on there saying, actually, there's, I've got neurodiverse children, and those machines, being able to do it on the app and then walk into there and scan a QR code, and that all works for them. It worked for them. Great use case. Going back to why do we put it in place, and thinking about the diversity of who we are and as humans, and how does that work? That should be why we do things. It shouldn't be to take up less real estate, be more cost effective. I know that there's always going to be a bottom line that we're trying to get to, and be more efficient. I'm not saying that we should never try and be more efficient, but we do need to be thoughtful in our process as to why we put something in place. And so if I was to start again, it would just start with, what is the product and what are we trying to achieve with that product? What is the most likely thing that's going to cause friction for our customers, and how do we as service providers provide the service that best resolves that and creates a great experience? Product, process, people, it comes back to that.
Brad, would you do anything different?
We have a lot of overlap here. I would design around 3 themes: effortless access for customers, empowered employees, and tight integration with the rest of the organization, and really let those things do their magic.
You said that so beautifully and succinctly. I wish I could just not do, go off on
That's
big
'cause you-
tangents and just say things like,
I just had to tag on to your comments, Luke. So no worries. You laid it out perfectly.
You both did a great job answering these questions. What are you talking about? No, this is, I mean, it's, you play off each other so well because you're both talking about the exact same thing. And it's understanding who's on the other side, whether that is an actual customer of the product or another team member or somebody that's in a different department. It's being intentional, it's being thoughtful, it's being purposeful, it's reflecting a lot to see, is this working? Do we need to pivot? It's providing autonomy to the folks that you hired to do something well. In doing so, empowering them to teach others what good looks like and how to achieve it, how to ask questions, celebrate asking questions. All of these are foundational pieces for places to be successful. And that's why the places that you've both worked at and built are so fortunate, because at your core, these are your foundations and you don't waver on them, and you prove that they're necessary for you to do the job well. Because even though cost center is the thing that people just like to throw at the work that we do all the time, we are the reason why these businesses stay afloat. We are the revenue drivers, because the folks that have already agreed to trust us with their money because they purchased something that we were providing for them, we got to keep them happy. We got to make sure that they're supported. And like we were talking about earlier, I mean, it's are you taking care of folks? What does taking care of folks look like?
I was, I'm going to sound like I eat a lot of fast food at this point, but I was at Domino's yesterday, and they've got I really love what was on their wall. Like, I love their slogan that was on the wall. It said, slow where it matters, speed where it counts. I don't know what that means from a pizza perspective, but from a people perspective, I think that's probably one of the mistakes I've made in my career, is trying to do things at such pace and have impact and show impact. And, I remember the review I got from my exec. He's like, Luke, you achieved so much in such a short period of time, and none of us could have imagined how much you could achieve in this time. But you need to look at the wake of people that you've created behind you. And there was just bodies when you look behind, like, because I just steamed so hard and so fast to achieve these things that I didn't bring everybody else on the journey, and people burnt out and people left and people, and if I was to redo it, if I was to re-answer that question again, I might take that Pizza Hut slogan, right? Slow where it matters, which is with your people and getting that right and bringing them on the journey, and speed where it counts. Yeah. Thanks, Pizza Hut.
I love it. I thought it was Domino's. We're switching things up over here.
Oh, yeah, it was Domino's. Yeah, it was Domino's.
It was Domino's. Sorry. You got to get that right if you want something else to go viral.
I don't even know if Pizza Hut exists anymore, does it?
It exists in some capacity in special places in different parts of the world. It's fine. So we're coming to a close, unfortunately. And of course, I think I probably only touched 1.5 questions that were on our prepared sheet. I'm so sorry, Brad. But Luke, you've come to expect this, though. The only other thing that I want to ask quickly, and just like a rapid fire, if there was one word that you would use to describe what's coming for contact centers, Brad, what would it be?
Dynamic.
Great word.
Yeah. Sticking to it.
Elevation.
Very nice. I mean, I think that that describes what both of you have shared with us over this last hour. I just want to thank you both so very much for your time. I know how busy both of you are, and the fact that you gifted me with a little over an hour on a Monday/Tuesday means a lot. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate the work
Yeah,
you're
thanks.
doing. Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and to even be in the same room talking about contact centers as some sort of authority next to Brad Cleveland is such an honor.
Wonderful. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, you two. And I'm really excited to get this out so that others can enjoy it and learn from you both. And thank you again.
Hooroo.
Thanks so much.